Hi guys, I think it's time that we go out to the shop and we talk. We are going to have a little shop talk. Hey guys, welcome to Shop Talk. What Shop Talk is, it's where we kind of take apart the scriptures, see how they were made, who they were talking to, why they were saying it, and see how that applies to us today. I really think that it's the way I operate in my shop. I don't know how to fix something until I know its intended use. I don't know how things work unless I take them apart. So that's what we're doing with Shop Talk. And, you know, Dixie's making me a great looking pour over here. I love sitting down with a cup of coffee and reading the scriptures. I love seeing what the Lord wants to reveal to me, and I think it's just such a blessing. So let's get ready for some Shop Talk. Hi guys, Pastor Rich here. Hey, you can tell that we are back in the shop for Shop Talk today. We've had 3 different places we've been at. One time we were out camping at Branched Oak Lake, so we got to do it with the lake behind us. Another time we were at a conference in Omaha, so we did it just outside that conference room. And last week, we were in Omaha at that really cool riverfront thing, so we did it in front of the Missouri River, which I want you guys to know that Jesus goes with you wherever you are. You can think about Jesus, you can take him along with you, because he actually is with you anyway. Just recognize it. So, we're back in the shop, and we're talking about the book of Ephesians in the Bible. We're going to go into Ephesians, and what I love about Ephesians is it's the Apostle Paul telling people who weren't Jewish. You know, the Jewish nation, the Exodus, the whole thing. Jesus was born out of their lineage, and then he sacrificed himself. Jesus, the Son of God, sacrificed himself so that everybody could come to know the saving grace of Jesus and live in a fullness of life with Jesus, because God tells us he has a purpose and a plan he has for us. When we live outside of that, you're not walking in that purpose and plan. You know, I've used it before, but it's kind of like a marriage. You know, when you get married, your life changes. When you accept Jesus and recognize Jesus in your life changes. Now, what good would it be to be in a marriage where one of the people are like, I decide not to be married anymore, and they don't act like it? You know, they totally reject their spouse, and they move on with life, and they date, and they do all these things. Well, that's not much of a marriage, and that ends up in a divorce or a separation of that relationship. But don't worry, God does not allow people to snatch you out of his hand. So the worst thing that can happen is if you act like you're married when you're around your spouse, but when you're not around your spouse, you don't act like you're married. Now, there's a kind of a ooey gooey gray area there. If you don't cross certain lines, if you don't have affairs, maybe you're thinking it's okay, and life is just like, okay, I can be who I feel like I am and have all my freedoms and ignore being married. But you are married. So that's what it's like being a Christian. You can't act like you're not a Christian when you're a Christian. You know what I mean? Because, well, it's super easy, and that all sounds kind of harsh and like, yeah, don't tell me, and, you know, I'm not an evil person. But let me put it to you this way. When I was a kid, I never really understood it like we do. We take Jesus with us everywhere. He lives in your heart. Well, I thought he was at church. I thought you would go to church and you would be around Jesus. You know, it's kind of like Christmas. You pull the Christmas ornaments off your shelves in the shop, and you put them up on the outside of the house. You let everybody know you're a Christian because you're celebrating Jesus' birth, right? Well, it's kind of like that with church. Do people outside of your Sunday morning know that you're a Christian? No, you don't have to go, I'm a Christian, carry your Bible around. I'm going to do a Bible study right here in the middle. All you guys don't make any noise at the lunch table here because I'm reading the Bible. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's odd. But if people ask you advice, where do you lead to? You know, if people
see that hopefully that your life is different. That even though you walk through trials and that things have happened to you in life that aren't fair, right? Or you've actually done things that cause you to, well, the Bible says, reap a harvest for those things. And you're like, well, this is how I got through it. This is how I know that God never left me. This is how I know that I'm a Christian. You know, it's a relationship, and relationships get better with work, right? So you have to focus or think about or allow Jesus into your life. You don't want to be that spouse that's married to somebody who doesn't let you into their life, right? How much fun would that be? Or what kind of a relationship is that? It's the same with Jesus. He wants to be in your life. And he is not going to give up on you. So do not think that you can mess up and God's turned and walked away and left you to your own, because the Bible tells us he doesn't. He doesn't let anybody take you out of his hand. He doesn't turn his back on you when you're going through hard times. He's there to comfort you when you grieve. He's there to be with you when you're suffering the consequences of even what you've done. We see that in different people in the Bible. But what I want to look at today is in the book of Ephesians. Now, Ephesians, the Apostle Paul, he's the one that really met Jesus after Jesus resurrected. He got knocked off a horse. He had a vision, and God used him to spread the good news to non-Jewish people like us, Gentiles. Unless you're of Jewish descent, then you already had it. But so you got Paul writing to the people in Ephesus. So in typical fashion, we want to take it apart and figure out who he's talking to, and so we can kind of understand what he's talking about. Well, he's talking to non-Jewish people. They didn't have the traditions and things of the Jewish people. They lived in Ephesus. Now, Ephesus is a city that is it's a harbor city. It's where a lot of trade happened. Now, Ephesus is in modern-day Turkey. Isn't that cool? Now, look at your globe with me. You're looking at a globe. You got Ephesus right here. You go a little bit to the left, you got Greece. You got Athens, Greece. A little bit to the left, you got Italy. It's the Mediterranean Sea area. I find that so helpful to know that it's a real place and still a real place today. I mean, this Bible was real people at a real time in history. I love that. So he's writing a letter to the Ephesians. And I'm going to go into chapter 5. I'm going to do a verse out of chapter 4. So we got the lead into chapter 5. But he's telling us how to be Christians. In chapter 4, what he's just wrapping up is your new life. Because these people in Ephesus, I mean, they had a pagan god, Artemis, and we know that because that's even referenced in the book of Acts that Paul wrote. So this is a big deal. These are pagan people. They don't have the culture. You know, we in America can even have people celebrating Christmas just because it's a tradition. They don't even recognize Jesus. Well, those people, they didn't have Christmas. They didn't have Christian traditions that kind of draw them in or anything. They were what we call a pagan, which is they worship a fake god that they made up to make themselves feel better. Artemis, she was huge. They had a huge shrine there. The whole city they took a month off in a year, and they did nothing but celebrate their Artemis. So it's a made up thing because there's no history to it and there's no power behind it. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas that are just fake once you get down below the surface, right? So Artemis, these people were bought into this goddess kind of thing, and they learned about Jesus, and they found Jesus in their everyday life, that Jesus cared about them in everyday life. He wasn't an ornament that you took off or you didn't celebrate him just 1 month a year. Jesus, he saved them from themselves. And Jesus' ways are the right ways. And God has a purpose and a plan for them. And they're learning all these things. So they're excited. They have this new life. They realize that what they used to do was hopeless and didn't bring any joy or fulfillment to them. but they've recognized that they're built to love Jesus because Jesus loved them first, right? And going to start in chapter 4, verse 32. It says, "Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you." Now, remember, there weren't chapters and verses when Paul wrote this, so he's writing a letter. But that has been separated into kind of thoughts. So the thought in chapter 4 that he's wrapping up is, it's not just all about you. It's about how you treat other people. Because Jesus died for you, you should be willing to treat other people kind-hearted and tender-hearted and forgive one another. Because they have life going on. There are irritating things in life, isn't there? There are people you rub the wrong way and rub you the wrong way. And Jesus is saying, hey guys, try to get along, okay? Let's get along, because really, your old ways rubbed me the wrong way, and I forgave you, and I still died for you. So the least you can do is share a little bit of the love I gave you with other people, right? Okay. So now he's going into chapter 5, and he's telling us how to walk in love. So chapter 5, verse 1, "Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children." What I was just talking about. Be kind-hearted, be generous. Love people that don't deserve it yet. That's what Jesus did for us. "And walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." Now, those words don't mean as much to us, but they would make sacrifices to their pagan gods. These people understood that stuff. So know that terminology put Jesus in their lives as the sacrifice that paid for their sins, because they would have to sacrifice things or do horrible acts to redeem themselves or please their God. Well, our God is the one that took on a horrible act and persevered through it to redeem us. So he's trying to get their mind to shift and understanding, because you know how it is when we think one way a lot. We look at everything from that filter, and everything comes from that filter. And when you talk to somebody that's on a whole different career, or they're in a different community, and you understand they have a whole different thought about that, different struggles, different things in their life, it's so kind of refreshing, isn't it? That it helps you realize how small your world can be. Well, these are just real people like you and I, and their world's kind of small. And he's helping them understand this. So, walk in love. So he's trying to separate them from the rest of the people that don't know Jesus. He wants them to walk in love even with them. He wants them to love them even though what they're doing isn't right? But he's not going to leave them there. He's not going to leave us there. He has a pretty strong word for us. And in fact, you guys should read this chapter 5. I mean, it talks about sexual immorality, impurity, and covetousness. That we shouldn't have that among us as Christians. There's no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking. Now, crude joking, that can happen so easily, can't it? And there's a part of us that laughs. Our flesh goes, that's funny. But what Paul's saying is, when you have Jesus living in your heart, you don't laugh at the expense of other people. And you don't laugh at horrendous things, because he cares so deeply for other people, and he wants us to care so deeply for other people. So he talks about not letting people deceive you, but I'm going to pick it back up in verse 8, okay? I'm in chapter 5 of Ephesians, verse 8. "For at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of the light." He's saying, don't live like you used to. When you were single, you lived one way. When you got married, you lived like you're married. Well, when you're a Christian and you're following Jesus, you can say, oh, it's so hard. Well, put in the effort. We all put in the effort. Let's try. And there's nobody judging you. He's the judge. Don't let another Christian judge you, but put in the effort, sincere effort, right? That's what he's saying. So at one time you were in the darkness, but your old ways steer clear of them. I have friends that they've even changed the people they hang out with and things because they weren't choosing to live a Christian life, and it drug them into a sinful nature that actually when you do things in a relationship that your spouse or whatever isn't fond of, you kind of separate yourself, don't you? Well, it's the same with Jesus. He won't let anybody pluck you out of his hand. But when you choose to walk on a different path, you're not close to him. And he can't talk to you as readily and as easily. He can't guide you. He can't be there for you when you're choosing to be somewhere else. So that's what he's saying. Don't choose darkness. Verse 9, for the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. And try to discern what is pleasing to the Lord. That's the effort. Try to discern what is pleasing to the Lord. That's why we have a Bible. So you can look at the Bible and go, hey, this is God's ways. I want to be pleasing to the Lord. I know even as I grow and I've been a Christian for a while, I still find things as like, oh, that was like selfish pride in me. God, I don't think that's pleasing to you. And then you offer it up, and man, life gets so much better. It does. It's kind of like a cleansing or a purification, because God created you. It's a purpose for you. Those things that separate you from him are just kind of irritants to that. They are the sand in your bearings and your wheel bearings, and that doesn't work well. And verse 10, and try to discern what is pleasing to the Lord. I had to say that again. I love that. That's our part. Take no part in unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. The things that aren't pleasing to the Lord. Now, if you're on a team, you wear that team's jersey, right? You don't show up and put on the other team's jersey and then put on your team's jersey. You don't go to a game. You don't go to a football game and you show up for the first quarter wearing one jersey and then the next quarter show up wearing another jersey. You don't just pick who you feel like. You're committed, right? Like in a marriage again. I'm committed to Dixie, so I'm going to wear my Dixie jersey, right? Well, you have to expose them. Those thoughts, they kind of come up, those things that don't please the Lord, and then you offer them up to him, right? Okay. For it is shameful even to speak of the things that they do in secret. We're talking about non-Christians. We're talking about, remember, there's this little g goddess, Artemis. They used to live this one way. So don't worship that little g god and think that the real God isn't going to be jealous or not going to be put off by you cheating on him. Right? You ever thought about that? How many times do we cheat on God? Oh, all right. For it is shameful to even speak of the things that they do, but when anything is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. That means, yes, you have to try, but don't stress out like, oh, no, I don't know what pleases God. Enjoy finding out what pleases God, because he is the light. The evil is the darkness. Have you ever noticed when you walk into a dark room, you turn on a light, it makes the darkness flee? You can't put darkness over a light, because light has a power over darkness, So when you're in a room, don't throw a blanket over the lamp, because you just made where the light is smaller. You want that light to expand. You take that blanket off that light and you start seeing other things in a room. I've heard many pastors talk about, you flip on the light and you see mice scurry. And you could have just walked around in the dark and been in there with mice, which, yeah. But anyway, for anything that becomes visible is light, right? Therefore it says, awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. You heard the song, let your light shine, this little light of mine. If you've been around churches or grew up in that in the 70s, 80s, you've heard these songs. But that's what they're talking about. It's wake up. I kind of envision it as like, wake up, you people of Ephesus. You are going and doing the wrong things and ignoring your God that loves you so much, that saved you, that he wants the best for you. He wants the best you that you could ever be, because he's the one that created you. He has a purpose for you. So when you're a Christian, you're walking in light, don't do things that look like evil, right? Don't allow yourself to partake in evil traditions, right? I talked about Christmas. There are people that celebrate Christmas just because it's a tradition. And there are people that celebrate Christmas because they're celebrating Jesus, God, coming to earth. The beginning of him being able to pay the price, that he went through all our human things. Same with the cross. I wear this cross, and when I look at this cross, it changes my behavior. I look at it, and if I have it out, I need to act like a Christian. Because what good is it for me if I wear this cross and I do selfish, horrible things, and I disregard people? Because the guy that died on a cross loved people. The guy that died on a cross gave his life up for people. Now, how do you think we should act as Christians? And that's what Paul's saying. He's saying, don't do the old things. Don't do things because they're fun. Do things that honor God. And that's not a narrow thing. There are so many things that honor God that you can do that bring life. Have you ever just given something to give somebody something, just to give them something? That joy that you get when you gave. Have you ever been able to be in the grocery market and pay for a young college student's, he was $5 short. That felt so good. I'll never see that guy again, and who knows if he knows the Lord or not. I didn't say, Jesus told me to give you this, but I acted in a way that Jesus showed me how to act. And I could tell that because I had a joy inside of me. Do you feel hopeless? Are you walking around life without any kind of hope or direction? Get in the Bible. No, it may not say go up to the street and take a right. But if you follow it, you're going to know that, okay, I'm going to go out to the street and, I need to help my neighbor pick up their garbage can that blew over. Or, I'm talking a lot about just physical little things, but it's bigger, and it's when you're at work making right choices. Do people know on Wednesday that you're a Christian on Sunday? And that's not a rebuke or I'm yelling at you. That's just the way it is. Do people know when you're outside your house that you're married? I think it's important that they do. It shows that you're in a real relationship. So, guys, I know this was kind of heavy. It's October. There's a lot of heaviness and things going on outside that make me scratch my head. Scary things on the outside of people's houses that scare little kids. I don't see that as walking in the light. That's putting on the other team's jersey. So, and I know that might have ruffled some feathers or something, and I'm not talking at you, because I don't even know who's watching, but I'm talking with you. And it's things that I have to struggle through in my life. I do how I treat people and how I act. If I bend rules, am I glorifying God? If I live in a way that is selfish and there's just so many things. And as you walk in the light, that light seems to, like that lamp in the room. If you turn that lamp up, we used to have a 3-way bulb. You would tap this light and it would get one brightness brighter and brightest. So it seemed like when I was first saved, that little light came on, and then I saw all this thing in my life that I wanted to change. Well, if you don't take time in your relationship to hit that, it was a touch lamp. So you just touched it and it went to the next brightness. And then you see more things in the room because the light went a little farther. And then finally you hit it again, and the brightest part of the bulb came out, and you could see the whole room. And that's our journey in life. We're just kind of hitting that lamp, letting the light shine a little bit more and a little bit more. So take some time this week. Ask the Lord, is there anything, God, that your light is shining on that I need to look at? And let him tell you. Look in his word. Is drinking to excess okay? Well, you can just go into chapter 5 of Ephesians and read, where is it? It's right in here. Maybe it's after, verse 18. Do not get drunk with wine. It's kind of good advice even outside the Bible, isn't it? Because really bad things happen when people get under the influence of something else. So don't get drunk. You're not yourself. I deal with things that people are hurt by other people when they're making poor choices under things that alter their character. So God loves you. He does so much, and he just wants you to have your best life ever. And he judges with compassion. There's the ultimate thing. If you turn your back, you ignore him. Yes, but when you reach out to God, he's faithful to respond to you. No matter where you are, how low you've gotten, God loves you. So reach out to God this week. Right before we do shop talk, we always pray. And Lord, I ask the Lord to not let me misrepresent him at all. And if there's things in my life or in my mind or that I don't want them to come out. Those are things that I don't want to mislead people. I want to be a good servant. And I think God honors that. And he works on things in my life every day. I'm so refreshed by that. There's a comfort in knowing I got a God that cares. So guys, today was how to be a Christian, right? How to walk in love. And it's always about working on us and our relationship with God, and everything else will come into the line. So I love you guys. I hope you know that. I love you. I love the God we serve. And I just know he has something great for you this week. You take care now. Oh, almost forgot. Hey, if you haven't subscribed on the YouTube channel yet, go check it out. PR Rich Justice. You'll see Shop Talk on the playlist to come out every Friday. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing so you're part of the Shop Talk family. Would love to get you know it a little bit. If you want to shoot a comment on there, or hey, if you like this, give us a thumbs up. Or if you are watching it on Facebook, shoot us a comment, give us a thumbs up. We'd love to connect with you guys. Take care now.